You got to go out there and you got to make sure that your house looks nice. Pickaxe, Mark.
I'm sitting
Watch
here,
your back.
I'm looking at all the Bobby Evans sound that we have from yesterday, and live on the show. I know this is really, really good radio here.
Okay.
I want to ask for more. Bobby was talking about drafting Heliot Ramos. I thought this is a super relevant sort of thing about quote unquote the kids. And truly, we'd love to hear from you, 888-957-9570, on what your sort of view is on the kids. And I understand the lead story of the week is Matos anger. I get that. I really do. I do think that and this is what I was trying to say to Larry, I think in the normal snap reaction of why would you send Matos down for Slater, I think there is an intricacy that is overlooked, and I get it because that's how we roll. But I do think, and this is not to, there goes Willard defending Farhan. I do think that the Giants were in a spot in terms of who to send down. And I know that some of you might have just been like, don't activate Slater. Not as easy as you think. That's a big leaguer coming off of a concussion who had only had 35 at-bats or whatever. And it was time for him to be activated. And he's not the worst player on the team. There's a bunch of kids who have been called up, and I would have sent one of them down, and I think the Giants would have too, but they didn't want to do that because they got this gaping hole at shortstop, so they're keeping all the people who might be able to pick up ground balls at shortstop. They're keeping I think that's just my translation of what happened, and my hope is that a healthy Nick Ahmed means that Luis Matos is right back up in a week or whatever when Ahmed is ready to go. I don't even know exactly when he's going to be ready to go. But my larger point is I know that's the lead story of the week, Matos anger. I think that should be the second story of the week. The first story of the week should be Ramos excitement. And I'm curious, not saying, oh my gosh, he's going to be an all-star, but I'm curious why this Ramos run, to me, doesn't sound or feel like the Matos week and the Schmidt 2 weeks, because this is longer and this is even more effective. Heliot Ramos has been offensively and defensively, objectively, one of the best outfielders in the National League this year.
This month, yeah.
No, but even for overall, in terms of output.
Right.
Number 5 in WAR.
Yeah, sure.
It's a number.
Among outfielders.
Yeah.
It's a number. It's been a month. Yeah, it's a number, and it's been,
but it's a season-long number. So in other words, he's achieved in 1 month more than what almost all of the other outfielders have achieved in 2+ months.
Right, and it's led to them being 14-12 in the games that he's played. So, yeah, wins above replacement. I don't know what his replacement would be, and wins above the average replacement. Yeah, he's been better than what they've had out there, and yet it's led them to be slightly above 500 as opposed to what they are overall, which is slightly below 500. I just wouldn't get all excited, overly excited about a player who has had a good month, and even more accurately, he's had a good last 4 or 5 games. And if he continues to trend in this direction, then yeah, go ahead and start printing the Vamos Ramos t-shirts.
I mean, he's homering every 18 at bats. He's homering every 18 at bats. I know you keep saying it's been like a good 4 games.
It's been a great 4 games.
Right.
But before that, it was a really solid start to the year.
Right. Like he's had an effect. Like this is what I always look for. And what really grabs my attention about Ramos, he's had an effect on the outcome of the games. You know what I mean? Jorge Soler finally got into one against the Diamondbacks.
Another solo job, 15 rows deep. And it was a 6-3 game, and he made it a 7-3 game. Right.
Ramos makes 2-1 games 2-2. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's also the clutch gene in there. Heliot Ramos, right now, objectively, and this is a wild thing to say, it's not a compliment to the organization at all, he's your best player. He's your best player. Give me somebody in the lineup who you want up in a big situation right now, not named Heliot Ramos.
Right now, probably nobody. I mean, over the course of the last, in his His last 4 games, he's homered 3 times. And he has 5 homers on the year. And on the year, I mean since May 8th when he came up. So that to me is where I look at it as far as his recent run, the recency bias of it. Yeah, and of those homers, you homered against New York, you lost 7-5. You homer against Arizona, you lose 4-2. So those homers did not impact winning. They were home runs that impacted them staying in the game, certainly, but those are games you still went on to lose.
That counts, though.
It does.
It counts. I mean,
you were mentioning the solo home run up 6-2, which makes it 7-2, which is okay, good home run.
Yeah.
But you're right, as far as like the impact on the game wasn't as impactful.
Well, except for, I do think to a degree in a game like baseball, comments like that can quickly get to an unfair spot. Let's go back to the game against the Yankees on Sunday. Yes, the Giants lost. Had nothing to do with Heliot Ramos. Ramos came up in the late innings with the bases loaded, 2 outs of a 3-3 game, and he lined a shot into left center field and cleared the bases. And made it, didn't clear him, but he made it 5-3. Like super, super clutch. And yes, Camilo Doval came out, tipped his pitches, and the Giants lost the game. But to me, that Ramos's hit still counts the same. That is an unbelievably important base hit in a huge moment for the baseball team. And we've watched a lot of that from Ramos. You know, they like the other night in Arizona, they lost in extra innings. Jorge Soler got tagged on the head in what would have been it would have given the Giants a 3-2 lead in the 9th inning. But, okay, review, you're out. But what did Ramos do in the 7th inning? 2-1 game. Home run, Oppo Taco, 2-2 tie. Yes, you went on to lose the game, but dude, huge moment.
Yeah.
So he is having an effect on the big moments for the Giants. And I think we really want to spend some time highlighting this right now because of all the things that a Giants fan is to me, come on, we're starved for something exciting. And so odd to me that we would sit here now and see this happening and sort of like not notice it. I don't hear a lot about this from Giants fans. Right now, the lead story is those idiots sent Matos down. Well, they didn't send Ramos down. And I get it. You want to see young people. But Matos, for 2.5 weeks, stunk out loud.
He had a hard time.
Before getting sent down.
He was hitting 165 over the course of about 2 weeks.
Meantime, the guy right to his right in left field is killing it. And is another the kids.
Right.
So let's get hot on that.
For sure.
Vamos Ramos.
Well, and that's how people look at things. And it's easier to look at the negative and highlight that and, dwell on that part of it, especially when the team is struggling as they are struggling. You're more apt to look at, Matos getting sent down as opposed to celebrating what Ramos has done over the course of a month.
Well, I'm in. Because, by the way, here's another thing to mention in this conversation. If people are going to get excited about Casey Schmidt for 2 weeks, like Heliot Ramos has always projected to be a way better baseball player than Casey Schmidt. Heliot Ramos is a prospect. A couple of years ago, Heliot Ramos was like, that's the guy. That's the guy we're waiting for. And then whatever happened for about 1.5 years, it felt like the organization was kind of out on him. They were not happy with the way he was developing. But like what we're seeing this month, if you want to just get past the numbers for a second, and I heard Flem talk about this the other day, I think this is really important. Like what you're seeing from Ramos right now is telling you that he was very, very productive with his time in Sacramento this year and last year. They're like, dude, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that. And Heliot went to work, and he is. And Flem said the last thing that he needs to do is stop striking out so much. And he's got 34 strikeouts and 92 at bats. It's too many. That's a strikeout rate that is too high. So that's a very solid point. But the other side to it is if Ramos actually starts playing like the player that they thought he was going to be,
right,
you're talking about a ceiling that's way higher than a Schmidt or a Wisely.
For sure.
Way higher.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's why they drafted him in the first round back in 2017, because they thought that the ceiling was high, and it's taken him a while to get to the spot where now he can come on and contribute, and the last 4 games have been remarkable. The last month has been good. Now keep it up.
Here's what Flem said the other day on the Morning Roast with regard to Ramos.
I don't think there's any chance he's going anywhere. He's been the Giants' best player over the last couple weeks. There's one last step for him to take because the guy has made so many improvements. He's gotten better on defense. He's not chasing the way he used to. Those at-bats last night, man, he was laying off some tough, close pitches that were not strikes. Got on base 3 times in a row to start the game. He does still have to find a way. And look, we've seen him. He's got aptitude. He gets better. He improves. You tell him to work on something, he does it. Like, that's a really good quality. You can't strike out 35% of the time and be a great player. You cannot. I'll say impossible. Maybe it's not impossible. If you were hitting home runs at an Aaron Judge pace, maybe you can still be a good player striking out that much. Otherwise, you got to cut that down. Even if it's just cut it down by 10%, you got to find a way to not be so vulnerable to the swing and miss.
Here's another point that I think is really important with regard to quote-unquote the kids. Remember that they were called up out of necessity, not out of what the organization usually likes to do, is have somebody force their way up to the next level. But let's take a look at what the 3 of them were doing in Sacramento this year. And in fact, their hitting coach is going to join us in 40 minutes. Damon Minor, who used to play for the Giants, many of you will remember him, is the hitting coach for the River Cats. So he has been working directly with these guys all year long. And he's going to join us in 40 minutes. I can't wait for that conversation. Because of the 3, who was really doing it in Sac? Ramos.
Yeah.
So what you're seeing right now with the Giants is the same thing they were seeing in Sacramento. The OPS of 918 in the Bigs was 953 at Sac. He's been good all year. He's been incredibly consistent. The only thing that he did at Sacramento a little bit better than what he's been doing with the Giants, his strikeout rate a little bit lower. Still too high, still too high, and that's something we'll ask Damon about. But this guy's been really good all year at every level. And so Matos was the one that was like, crap, we got to call him up. Jung Hoo Lee's down. Luciano, gosh, we got to call him up. Ahmed's down, and Schmidt's not hitting the ball. We got to call up Luciano. Those guys didn't force their way up. Ramos did. And so if there's a chip that I'm going to place on the table of one of these 3 right now as far as sticking and being the young guy of 2024, it is easily Heliot Ramos.
And he got the chance mainly because Conforto went down.
No doubt. But he had the numbers to show that he could have also forced his way up. There was a buzz.
Right. Yes, and you also have the spot where it's Yaz out in right field as a left-hand hitter, and Slater. Slater is the guy who normally plays the other part of that platoon, but he was not around to do that, so you could have Ramos come up there and play that role, but now he's become an absolute everyday mainstay.
The little birdies in the back of my head were telling me before Slater's concussion, he had about 3 or 4 more weeks.
Right, and I think he still does.
And if he didn't get it the difference now is Ramos is already up. Like, yeah, you could do Matos.
That's the thing.
The thought was at the time, Slater's hitting a buck here in the Bigs, and Ramos is in Sac hitting 300. Why don't you move on from Slater and bring up Ramos? And then everybody got hurt, and it all got muddy. But that's where we were headed. And now he's already here, and he's proven that he should be here. And at minimum, he has taken Slater's job. I think he might have taken portions of Conforto and Yaz's job, too. Yaz is lucky he can play center, and Jung Hoo Lee is out, and now Matos is down. But Ramos is going to be in the lineup every day.
Yeah.
Every day. Even against right-handers.
And maybe Ramos becomes what they thought Matos was going to be, and he becomes your everyday center fielder. If Conforto is healthy and you've got, Yaz and right or Slater, depending on who's pitching, and you can just put Heliot Ramos out in center, which is where he is tonight.
Yeah. I don't know if they love him projecting at center. It'll be interesting to see him play.
Yeah.
It'd be very interesting to see him play out there, because in my memory, I don't think they've put him out there much before.
4 games in the majors. Yeah, he's 2 starts.
Largely a corner guy.
Right, but in the minors, and I'm looking at the numbers, he's played 387 games in center in the minors over 7 years.
Yeah.
So he at least has played there.
Love it.
Unlike Luciano, who's only played shortstop. Ramos has at least played some time in center field.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Let's do Ben in Fairfield, and then we got something I think relevant to play for you from Bobby Evans yesterday. Hey, Ben, what's cooking? What are you doing?
Yeah, just driving home from work, boys. Kind of like you were saying, Ramos is the guy I'm most excited to watch every night, and it's the swag. He's got the pants above the knees, the cool shoes, the look. I feel like he's a linebacker in an outfielder's body, bursting through the jersey and gliding around the corners of the outfield. Just looks so good, and I think, like I was saying, just the most enticing player in this lineup. It's as tough as that is to say, it's pretty awesome to watch.
No doubt, Ben. Ben, thanks very much. And again, I mean, maybe I'm being a little hyperbolic right now, but if I'm the Giants and for 3 years you've been begging for things to promote, listen, I'm not saying fill the team store, but I am saying whatever the Schmidt buzz was for 2 weeks last year, and I think Matos had his share of it for National League Player of the Week. Obviously deserved it, drove in almost 20 runs in a week. It was incredible. But, man, I wouldn't hesitate on this. I would not hesitate, especially if they are out in the public openly saying, I don't see us taking him out of the lineup. Well, man, fire up the hype train. Yeah. Let's go.
With the Vamos Ramos t-shirts.
Vamos Ramos.
Just start printing them and get them out there. And if he continues to play like he has of late, even like you said, the whole month he's been up here, then, yeah, he's going to stay, and you can figure out what to do with the outfield spots. And maybe it's not until next year because Jung-Hoo Lee is going to be out for the year, but it's going to get to a spot where you actually have a little bit of an embarrassment of riches. If Conforto can hit, you've got Yaz who can play defense, and you start to really stack outfielders out there.
Bobby Evans with us yesterday, who was in charge of drafting Heliot Ramos back in 2017.
He's 24. He's a victim like all these kids are of COVID. I mean, they missed a year of baseball, really a year of development. And so I think we're seeing what Ramos is capable of. I mean, I think the reality is he's more disciplined at the plate. He's doing damage with the pitches to hit. Obviously, he's improved the all-around game, including his defense in the outfield. And when we drafted him, we didn't know whether he would be able to stick at center or whether he'd have to be a corner. I think that as he was in the development process, we looked at him more as a corner guy. He's able to obviously carry his load there. He's done well offensively. He's shown consistency. He's shown that he's made the adjustments that we all knew he needed to make when he was here, at some point last year.
I just think his minor league stint has been longer than people wanted it to be, and you forget that this was the 19th overall pick in the draft.
Right.
It's a first rounder now. It's a first rounder who's starting to play like one. Pretty exciting.
It's very exciting.
Pretty exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, is that not what we've been waiting for?
It's what you've been waiting for, and play the kids, and right now it's play the kid, singular, and he is earning his spot.
Presented by Fremont Bank, celebrating 60 years of full-service banking with no compromises. His hitting coach